When you think of the biggest rivalries of the 1980s, what comes to mind? Hogan vs. Andre? Flair vs. Dusty? Maybe the Von Erichs versus the Freebirds? Well, those are all incredible in their own right. What if I told you that there was one of the decade that had gotten so heated and so competitive in their respective field that there was no other choice but to finally settle it once and for all in the squared circle? Ladies and gentlemen, let's discuss the long-awaited match between Kellogg's and General Mills in the Battle of the Breakfast Cereals. Going into 1989, Verne Gagne and his American Wrestling Association promotion were heading into its downward spiral, long past the days of being one of the premier wrestling territories in the country. With a combination of talent leaving and joining the WWF or JCP's rosters, as well as Gagne's insistence, or stubbornness depending on how you look at it, to feature established names rather than building the company's future stars, the AWA were looking at every possible option to keep the doors open. After the working relationship with World Class Championship Wrestling and Continental Wrestling Association fell apart months earlier, Gagne was in need of another way to promote his wrestling shows and bring in enough money to keep the business running for just a bit longer. The AWA's next partnership of sorts came from an unexpected name, as popular breakfast cereal brand Kellogg's would work with Verne, not to be a sponsor nor to financially invest, but instead utilize a handful of wrestlers to turn a regular sales meeting into a one-of-a-kind wrestling event. This took place on May 1st in the ballroom of the Hyatt Hotel in Minneapolis, Minnesota, right in the middle of General Mills territory. With Kellogg's and the AWA pulling into town on an army jeep to fire the first shot against General Mills. Or something like that. We start off with a graphic saying, "in your space," which, from what I could find, was a phrase the sales team used to describe putting their products onto shelves already taken by Mills products. As we transition to commentator Larry Nelson hyping the action we're about to see before heading to the ring for the national anthem. Ring announcer Dale Gagner runs down the card featuring wrestlers representing Kellogg's
against the nasty General Mills gang.
As we see the setup for the event, with curtains on opposite sides of the ring and signs instructed to the Kellogg's team to cheer their guys and boo the General Mills crew. Some of them throwing the inferior cereal at the heels when making their entrances, though Colonel De Beers, called the General for this gig, goes one step above and drops an elbow onto a box of cornflakes. The ring starts to look like the breakfast equivalent of Bash at the Beach 96 as we go to our first presentation, or dare I say, promo, of the evening, as the real sales fighter, Scott Richards, comes into the ring, daring those no-good GM baddies to come back out and fight the team.
You believe those guys? No! Are you going to take it? No! Ben Irvin, yes. You and your management team, are you going to take it anymore? No! Roland, are you going to take it anymore? No! How about Mike Morgan and your team? No!
As Mr. Richards then introduces the next competitors on the store shelves that'll knock out big names such as Honey Nut Cheerios and Total Raisin Bran for the count.
Okay, Honey Nut Cheerios. Move over. You want to sell this product? No! It's empty. Move over. Here comes Nut and Honey Crunchers! Brand. Now here's a hell of a winner, right? Do you want to sell this? No! Move over, Total Raisin Bran. We're going to sell Nutri Raisin Bran.
they finally sweep all that cereal out of the ring for our first matchup, the Melee in Minneapolis. As Total the Terrible, betrayed by Mike Enos, takes on Rockne, aka Tommy Jammer, with Larry Nelson starting the first of several jokes to mock the General Mills competitors.
Speaking of Total the Terrible, banned from Michigan for walking old ladies across busy highways. Not a nice guy.
A collar and elbow leads to Total hitting an arm drag right out of the gate, slamming Rockne down with a hip toss after another tie-up. The Terrible continues his offense with a body slam, but Nutra gets to return the favor and hit the same moves onto Enos before finishing with a dropkick. Both men walk into the corner after another tie-up, with Total hitting a chop, but his Irish whip gets reversed, and ends up body dropped by the man who's, quote, energized by the vitamins and minerals in Nutrigrain. A few shots in the corner help Jammer hip-toss the future Beverly brother across the ring before nailing a clothesline off the ropes for a near fall. Nutra gets some more 2 counts before deciding to spam a few dropkicks and hit a running splash to win the match for Team Kellogg's. We quickly continue to our next presenter from England, Vice President of Marketing, Tim Mobsby. As the international sensation takes his place at the podium, Tim cuts a passionate promo about the pettiness of the General Mills brand.
Those GM spots are obscene. Have they no shame? Instead of pointing out the benefits of their brands, they put down the Kellogg brand. What a way to expand a market. It's like increasing corn production by burning your neighbor's field. And it's not just the ads. It's the trade allowances, the FSIs, the back panels, everything. Well, enough is enough. It's time to fight fire with fire. This is war!
Before going into the company's, quote, war plan. First, to build up their own brand, and second, to utilize the element of surprise to throw off not just GM, but all oppositions who stand in their way. Mobsby also reveals that they've obtained the General Mills attack plan through possibly nefarious means, before describing the rewards that'll be worth all of the, quote, potential risks.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are at war. Our strategy, though, is to fight the war on our ground, to lay the battlefield as we want it, repositioning the enemy, taking their claims away from them, outmaneuvering them. But to win such a war of surprise, we must accept and prevail over certain challenges. First, we must target products, never competitors in general. Second, we must be more innovative than ever. And third, we must move with quicksilver speed, ideally first to market, if not, lightning quick in response. Fourth, we must be focused. We must know what we want to accomplish and select points of attack where we can have an advantage. Then we must bring our marketing resources to bear, like a magnifying glass, bringing those rays of the sun together to apply an unbearable heat on the object of its focus. And finally, we must be competitively tough, and we must be mean. The days of the easy pounds are gone. This is war, and there's only one winner. But rest assured, we will prevail, and we will win. Because nobody can put the pressure on like Kellogg's can. Let's go get them!
We then segue to the terror in the Twin Cities, as Hondo the Honeybee Haymaker, or Wayne Bloom, deals with Mr. O-Portunity, Derek Dukes. Mr. O chases the Honey Haymaker out of the ring before the bell, before things finally settle down and the match gets underway. Duke's quickness at the start helps him hit a hip toss as Hondo complains about possible hair pulling, with him immediately after on the receiving end of a drop toe hold and some smack talk from his opponent. One half of the Destruction crew then complains about O-Portunity pulling his tights, but refocuses to apply a headlock and even stops Derek from pushing him away, slamming him down onto the mat. Getting the heat from the Kellogg's employees in attendance, the Honeybee hits a shoulder block, but then gets hip-tossed by the future PWA Tag Team Champion. Bloom grabs Derek's hair to send him off the ropes as O-Portunity dodges and hits a running crossbody that leads to a 2. The other future Beverly brother chokes his opponent to gain an advantage, hitting a body slam before attempting to crown his opponent with some Honey Nut Cheerios, but it only fires up Mr. O. After tearing the box, he lands some kicks before Irish whipping Bloom to the opposite side and staying on offense with a back body drop. A super kick helps O-Portunity hit a diving shoulder block off the top rope to get the victory. We then have ourselves a brawl near St. Paul as the leader of the General Mills team, well, the General, Colonel De Beers, goes one-on-one with Dr. K, Wahoo McDaniel. Starting with a collar and elbow in the corner, the Doctor of Kellogg's Nomics slaps the General in the chest before both men trade holds, with De Beers missing his shot and getting a knife-edge chop. The former Mid-Atlantic champion maintains control before the referee forces him to break a hold, as the General recovers to apply a headlock and throw a punch that knocks Dr. K down. A few stomps from the leader of Team General Mills help sway momentum in his favor, as he drags Wahoo's face across the top rope. K hands out some more chops and throws De Beers head first into the turnbuckle, following up with a head chop that sends the General to the outside. McDaniel shows how dirty he can fight, with an eye poke to the former Central States heavyweight champion, going for the snapmare into a headlock, and ending the sequence with another chop. The General and the Doctor start trading blows as the referee gets knocked out to ringside after K sent De Beers crashing into him, missing the follow-up cover, and allowing the General to use a rather painful toy from the Cheerios box and land a scoop slam. But just as he looks to dive off the top rope, the sales and marketing team run in to throw him back down and hit a double dropkick, before tossing the referee back in just for Dr. K to nail one more chop to win this bout. Our final promo of the night features the EVP of Sales and Marketing, Mike Simpson, who rubs some salt into the wound of the General after he just lost his match.
Here we are in Minneapolis, sending a message to who? General Mills, but why do we call him General? You saw the way that guy fought. We better demote them. I think we should refer to them now as Private Mills. Hey! All right, so here we are in the home of Private Mills. You head back there. I'll call Dr. K.
Before going into the backstory of how and why this whole meeting came to be.
You know, as we were designing this meeting, it reminded me of something that happened when I was in the 7th grade. There was a guy in the 8th grade. His name was Leonard Waslick, and I'll never forget Leonard. He was forever bugging us. He'd punch and cause all kinds of problems. And I went home and I said, Dad, what are we going to do about Leonard Waslick? I don't know how to handle this case. He says, well, there's only one thing you can do with a bully, with someone who never learns, and that's punch him in the nose. So that's what we're here to do. We're going to punch Private Mills in the nose.
Mike also mentions the $60 million budget that's been added to help push themselves as the superior brand, and another way to knock down private mills.
No doubt in my mind that, as Scott says, we've got the best sales management crew in the industry, and we know that you folks are going to make sure your folks knock private mills and anyone else who comes after us right out of the ring. So let's go get them.
The main event becomes a riot in the aisle for the In Your Space trophy, as the Mills brothers, Pat Tanaka and Paul Diamond, take on the aforementioned sales and marketing team, Verne Gagne and Tom Zenk. Zenk pushes a particular catchphrase in the opening moments. Using that aggression to apply a stiff headlock before going for a hip toss and some arm drags. The former member of the Can-Am Connection hits an inverted atomic drop before tagging in Gagne, as Greg misses a rebound dropkick and allowing Paul Diamond to tag in. Diamond stomps and then throws Greg to the outside, as the General attacks him at ringside to get some payback from earlier on. One of the Kellogg's team members throws Gagne some nut and honey crunchos to help push the former international TV champion back into the ring. The future Max Moon knocks him down and attempts to keep S&M from getting another tag, but Tanaka distracts the referee just as the tag is made, allowing the Mills brothers to nail a double clothesline when the Z-Man is sent back to his corner.
One thing you gotta say about the Mills brothers, they're not all that smart. They think Scan Track is a scenic train.
A headlock from the former Orient Express member keeps Greg grounded briefly, as the Kellogg's team tries to fire him up before Diamond tags back in to continue applying the headlock. Tanaka once again distracts the referee just as Zenk tags in, before Gagne gets a near fall off a running crossbody. Both men then collide and fall to the mat, leading to Tom Zenk finally getting the hot tag. With the speed and strength of Tony the Tiger, Zenk hits an atomic drop on Tanaka and a super kick to Diamond, as sales and marketing Irish whip the former AWA Tag Team Champions into each other. After a double backdrop, Tom hits the diving crossbody to win and bring the In Your Face trophy back to Kellogg's headquarters. We wrap things up with Larry Nelson summarizing the dominance of Kellogg's against General Mills throughout the card, as S&M are handed the trophy before we fade to black. Originally, this whole event was taped and to be shown to other Kellogg's employees, never publicly released by them nor the AWA. It remained in the Inquirer tape library of WWE for several decades until they uploaded the show in its entirety onto the network's Hidden Gems section, coinciding with National Cereal Day on March 7th, 2019. Suffice to say, this is one of the strangest pieces of content that WWE ever put onto their streaming service. On paper, the idea of having wrestlers donning names based on certain cereals just to promote one brand as superior to the other sounds ridiculous. In execution, it is still ridiculous, but to the credit of the wrestlers, Kellogg's execs, and the employees in attendance, they made this work as best as they could. The matches were perfectly fine. The speeches in between were either bare bones or did a good job of pushing themselves as the victors in a quote war against the competitors on store shelves. And there was one thing that kept popping up throughout that I had a big issue with, but for the life of me, I can't remember what it was. Maybe it'll spring to mind later. Ultimately, the only ones that benefited from this, if that's the wording you want to use, was Kellogg's, as they found another avenue to promote upcoming products and would go on to basically make the same or special tie-in cereals, while continue fighting in the market with General Mills several decades later. On the other hand, Verne Gagne and the AWA would not have such luck in their immediate futures, but that's a whole other topic for another time. Though it wasn't on this particular scale, the event was far from the last time wrestling companies would work with major food or drink labels for co-promotion. With various chain restaurants, energy drinks, and anything in between being featured on the major programs through segments or simple ad placements. Especially on WWE events for quite some time now, it's tough to say if we'll ever see a repeat of a sports entertainment themed meeting like we got for the AWA and the Battle of the Breakfast Cereals.